good afternoon as we continue to meet people who are builders of the Gaelic College, who've made contributions to the culture and history of this place over many years. And we're thrilled this afternoon to be joined by Betty Matheson, teacher in Dominion, Cape Breton, and a presence here since the mid-'80s at the Gaelic College. Welcome this afternoon.
Thank you very much.
Someone asked before we began this afternoon if I had ever studied step dancing. I did for one day. There were no injuries. With Ann Peters from Southwest Marguerite,
Okay.
who showed me the figures of a square dance and a fundamental basic step that she thought would get me through a square dance in Southwest Marguerite. And we went to the hall together to dance that night. And in the first set, we get to that point where all the men are holding hands, facing the women, and we're beginning to step, and I realized the gentleman whose hand I'm holding is Rodney McDonald. So his feet are flying at 180 kilometers per hour. And we finish the set, I muddle through. I say to Anne on the way off the floor, how embarrassing it is to have to attempt to step dance next to Rodney McDonald. And she says, Ian, don't worry. If you're stepping next to Rodney, no one's looking at you. So it took all the pressure off. And I mentioned that story only to point out that as he became a teacher, he was guided by Betty.
And
What-
Jean and a few others.
How long after you learned to walk did you learn to dance?
Well, all my mother's people were from Ellagawatch, 9 miles from Marble Mountain.
Yes.
And my uncles, all they call sets. So from the time I was a kid, they took me to square dances, right? So I was always involved with the music. And and they spoke Gaelic, so it was kind of brought up with the music all the way through.
How often would it happen in your home?
We often had parties. We had a fair number of parties.
Okay.
Well, actually, the first year I moved into a new home 14 years ago, my son reminded me towards the end of the year, Mom, you've had 7 parties so far this year. So it's always been a party house.
Okay. What was it about dancing that provided enjoyment for you?
Well, I think to begin, I think I was about 4. Some of you would remember Doris McDonald.
Yes, I do.
Dance school. I was about 4, and I was in tap ballet. So since I was about 4 years old, I've been dancing. And then a fair number of my friends were fiddlers. Mike McDougall from Ingonish, and different fiddlers like that. And it just evolved that I got into step dancing in the early 70s, early 70s. I remember I was dancing here. Most of you, we talked yesterday about Joan McGuinness. And it was funny, Jean can tell you this too. We had 2 Joans. We had 2 Joan McGuinnesses. Everyone in the college, if you ask most of these people, we still call them Red Joan and Black Joan. So Red Joan, Joan Smith,
Yes.
she was here in the 70s, and I used to come up for the Gaelic mods. I used to dance in the Gaelic mod from the mid-70s on. I know, since forever. I've been here since forever.
Fantastic.
And it just evolved, and then once Jim McCauley came, of course, when Jim was here that the fiddling and step dancing were at it, right?
How about introducing us to your friend?
This is one of my best friends in music and in actual life as well. We've shared a tremendous number of laughs here, and we've shared the students as well. I would have them for one class, Jean would have them the next, and they had 2 different styles to learn from, and we'd get together for our square sets at the end, and we spent a tremendous amount of time
The big doors
together.
you'd push back, we would all get together.
In the gym, in Mackenzie, and in Highland and McLeod. We just pushed the double doors back, and then we'd have our sets.
Fantastic. Hello, Jean.
Hello. How are you?
Great cheer.
Running all the way.
I just asked Betty about how she came to dance in the first place, and she talked about what happened in her home. What happened in yours as a child to get you interested in dance?
It was always there. Well, the first time I can remember dancing was, I must have been about between 4 and 5, because my father died when I was 5, and I remember him getting me up on the floor for the dance too. I guess it was probably Don Messer or something that was on the radio then. That's and then we had a Cayley home. There was always fiddler. Well, my brothers were fiddlers, and everybody came to our house. If they came from Sydney from work, they stopped by our place for a tune before they got on their way. And we had cousins that were really, really good step dancers. Of course, I never saw them all, but the one that I remember was Hector McKinnon. And he was dancing until he was 80, but he had a wonderful, wonderful way of dancing, very neat and
Now, it would help me to understand the terminology. When you say neat, what does that mean?
well, like he was just the born step dancer. He's right up on the front of their feet. At that time, they used to sometimes they'd compete and things, and it was probably something like Willie Fraser, that kind of dance. And I noticed that right away. And when I was small, I just loved this dancing. Didn't see half enough of it.
Who would have influenced you and impressed you when you were young?
Let me see. I would say Willie Fraser.
From Deepdale?
Minnie McMaster was a wonderful dancer. Close to the floor, which is what we've stressed over the years here at the college with Camaraderie style dancing. Supposedly you're supposed to be able to dance on a tree trunk. You should be able to dance all your steps should be right there. You know, and Minnie was very, very neat dancer, as was Margie Dunn. Many people like that, wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah, I had a lot to learn some steps from Margie Dunn. She used to live in Antigonish, which my brother lived in Antigonish, Carl. So we were up there at the Highland Games, and we went through some steps. I learned a few from her.
In order to learn steps from good dancers, how would you go about it? Go to see them? Go to watch them? How would it happen?
Well, I think Jean and I have both been fortunate. We've always had gatherings where they would be. Sheldon McGuinness was instrumental in gathering groups together. Remember, we'd have seminars with all step dancers, and we could share steps and things like that. And I mean, the best way for me is just to watch somebody, figure as much of it as I can myself, and then just ask.
And then ask them what they were doing?
Yeah, just the part that I didn't get, or 2 parts I didn't get, just check it with them, and they do the same with us.
There's a lot of steps made because people are looking at somebody else. And they pick the step up, and they got a little thing in it. It's probably picks it up another notch.
How many steps can there be?
Oh, there's hundreds. There's the basic ones that you have to learn from. If you pass by the basic ones and get into the rest, you have a hard time, I think. You got to get the basics down, and then you can add something to the front, something at the end, or a little twist in the middle, or backward step, or and make them more interesting. And today they're really evolving in step dancing. There's fantastic step dancers today. The thing about them, they're so young, and they can get up and they can dance for half an hour.
So when there's so many varieties, how long do you have to be dancing before you can be comfortable enough to maybe create a step or to be an innovator?
Well, you don't take long finding out if they got that talent. Because I know I learned many steps here from a girl from Port Hawkesbury and both people from the States sometimes. They just got something different. And we taught the kids home, like every one of them learned to step dance. Well, I used to teach in the basement too, and taught them. It's just funny that I'm here today because Betty remembers this group. We used to teach in I think you were down there with me, in the basement of the convent in Sydney Mines. Sister Anita Beaton was there, so she was all first from Mabo, so let us right in, and we had a whole gang there, and it was great. And anyway, we were getting along pretty darn good, but then they got a new superior, and we were rolling the floor. She put us. So then we were in. Well, she was in her own area. I was in. But I was pregnant one time herself, and Margaret Gillis were there helping me. I was Ryan.
So that's going back.
Yeah, well, that's like a kind of a break in between. We started over again with children. But we used to teach in the basement. Like it was all teaching in our house. I was in the basement with the step dancers, and they'd finish with me. They'd go up to the living room with Kyle, and then there'd be somebody else up on the next floor. And then they'd all come home from school. They'd have to get all their practice done.
What would that be like after school?
They knew they had to do it anyway, so you got to do it. If you're going to bother with it, you have to get it in there. Like, the road hockey players would be sitting on the step waiting. But they years after that, the boys, the young Barras, I guess, they used to play down at a pub in Sydney Mines, and all those guys used to go there, all their friends and everything. And every once in a while, there'd be a guide, a young teenager, jump up and start step dancing, or ones that he didn't know could dance, but they used to come to the dance classes. Just saying, come to me and say, or telling them, I wish my mother had made me do this.
Well, at what point, Betty, did you go from being a participant in dancing to a teacher?
I went as a student, maybe it would be 71, 70, 72. And I started performing maybe 1973, 1974, up here from about maybe 75 on, 76. And then I came here, I think it was 86, for 7 weeks every summer for I don't know how many years. Years and years, right? Years and years and years. And then gradually over the last number of years, cutting back because I teach school all year.
Sure.
Cut back to 5 weeks and then to 4 weeks. You hate to cut the ties altogether, but eventually you have to realize you've taught a lot of students. And what we both did the last number of years we taught, our advanced class, we would teach them how to teach, just to make sure that there would be teachers who could take over properly, because she and I were both very strict with the style. It has to be Camaraderie style step dancing, and that's, right?
When they're coming from another place, they don't want to push it too much. They make up their own, but if it's Camaraderie style, well, they want to learn Camaraderie style is usually what they want to do, so we teach them Camaraderie style.
Well, why is it important to be strict about what is the Cape Breton style?
Well, I mean, it's the same as fiddling, same as piping, same as Gaelic. It's a living heritage. We are lucky enough in this area to have a living heritage. It isn't just a pastime that we do. It's something that it's part of our life, right? Yeah. Same as the fiddling. The fiddling is a big part of our life. And the step dancing has to be, you've got to stay with our traditions. We're lucky enough to have them. We can't lose them.
When you're teaching people to become teachers? You're adding that into
Oh,
their
definitely.
education. What are some of the things you try to remind them to do?
Well, I don't teach them to be teachers. I just, if that's in them, they'll teach it when they learn it anyway. But I don't know. You have to answer, but that's you were teaching
Well,
the teachers.
the last few years I was here, that was my, and I mean, the first thing you have to do with anybody, it has to be fun. Why would someone come here for an hour in sweltering heat if it's not fun? You've got to make it fun for them, right? So, I mean, you'd start them off. You're not going to give them 5 steps that they're going to get totally frustrated. You give them 1 or 2 steps that they get down really well. And then you teach them, first and foremost, you've got to have respect for them. The students from out of you, you've got to have respect for them. You can't talk down to them. You know, you're teaching them something and you want them to enjoy it. But you want them to continue doing it, you know? And you just kind of teach them, let people go at their own pace. Jean and I both had, over the years, I mean, we may have, our classes used to be, now a step dancing class might be 16 people. So you'd have 16 people in half of the studio, and there'd be about 5 different levels there. So you'd teach this, your basic strass bay, and the ones that are really slow, well, you can work on this jig right now. This would be great for you. So you kind of make everyone feel that they've got some level of success. You know, make them feel good about themselves, but at the same time, make sure that they're getting exactly what they need to make them give up and step dancers.
You mentioned the importance of fun and having fun. Where is the fun for you?
For me personally?
In participating in dancing.
My fun is anytime. If you're washing the dishes and a good tune comes on the radio, I always hold on to the cupboard and let her go. But that's where, like, all my early teaching came from was in the house, because anybody that we had, always people coming in. This is like, we were lucky we had the Stubbards. That's Brenda Stubbards, uncle and father, and they used to drop in and good fiddle music, and Kyle and those learned a lot at their knee, besides having Hector and Carl Mackenzie and Charlie and all their uncles did music, but they were always exposed to it, and we always got them to play, and I got them to dance. Tapes there with Stuart dancing when he was 9, I think, and it sounded pretty good. And I started to tell about, I used to teach groups in the north side before I came down here. I didn't come down here till Sam came. And they all came in, like it was an adult class, and they're people that wanted to go to square dancing and all that. So we had a great bunch of people coming, and one of the guys was Jamie Taylor, and he got his 3 sisters to come and their husbands, and actually got a prize at the end of the year for bringing the most to the class. But it's just funny that it's sad, because he died. His funeral is tomorrow morning. It's Jamie Taylor. He's all part of the old. I was telling Betty that we had a closing. Well, I started on the north side with Father Eugene Morris.
Yes.
And of course, when he asked me the first time, well, I said I can't go. I didn't have any
Experience.
not experience, but what you need to do anything. What's that word? Anyway, I lost
No
it.
degree or
No.
credentials or
Confidence.
Oh.
I didn't have 1 ounce of confidence to go out and talk in front of people.
Okay.
And anyway, he did the greatest thing, and I teach the lesson to everybody else, because he said, no, and I said, well, all right, you do all the talking. I can teach, but you do all the talking. So when he was there 2 weeks, he had an eating, and I had to take the class. And I was just dying inside, but nobody knew that. The class went on just as good. And nobody knows you're nervous if you don't let on.
Mm-hmm.
So
She sells herself short.
In what way?
In very much ways. She's
Oh,
an
no.
extremely talented piano player. She's a great step dancer. She's the mother of all the Barras. And I remember as a kid, you remember this, she had, they were about this big, Seamus Kyle, steps and stones, and they had the little pants and the Mackenzie tartan vest, and they'd be, half the time they'd come up with practices, they'd want to be here, there, and everywhere, and she'd get them to this practice, I'm telling you. They'd thank her for it today.
Yeah.
But she plays the fiddle herself as well.
They didn't put. I play with it. But I taught a lot in my own area. I taught in Washabrook, and I taught in Waikagma for a while, and Big Pond, and actually Rita McNeil was in my class.
What kind of a student was she?
Shy, but she could pick steps up. She was only a slip of a girl then, quite a while ago. So we had classes there and have a closing. And I got a closing, one of the early ones in North Sydney. We had it in the basement of a church, and the ones who were playing for the square sets was Archie Mackenzie and Hughie Jobs. They're well-known old fiddlers.
Yes.
And we have them on a tape. And we had an 8-hand reel of young children, and we had the adult class, and there was all the noise in the background, the feet going, and sounds great. Somebody taped it and gave it to me.
What are the chances that there are some fiddlers or piano players who make dancing easier?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, certain timing,
Definitely.
that's right.
One of the best fiddlers I've ever danced to, and this is no secret to Rodney, because I've told them, his grandfather, Don Langus Beaton, was definitely one of the best step dance players anywhere. I'd often have him
His timing
play for his timing was perfect, and the old style, he was wonderful.
He
really was.
stayed right on the beat. He didn't take off.
No, he did. He kept a steady pace. What often happens with the fiddlers, if they're watching a dancer, they'll speed up as the dance, and it's just, they play off each other, not in a good way sometimes, but Don Langs didn't have that. It would just
Most of the young ones today can keep right up with the fast ones.
But you miss a lot of some of the steps, the intricate steps you don't get in with the faster.
That's true, I suppose. But I don't.
But you talk about, any of you know Ron Kaplan?
Yes.
He has size 13 shoes, and he's about 6'7". He took lessons here. He and Joella Foles and the crew. I taught them every week. And at the end of each lesson, he would pretend he was a ballet dancer over the thing. And he almost touched the ceiling, and he'd be doing his little pirouettes on the floor, and the big feet and the hands, and they'd be touching the ceiling. It was a lot of laughs. Very, very, very many laughs. This place is a wonderful spot for everything,
When you mentioned Don Langus Beaton, the Highland Village Day was called off at Iona one year. It was pouring rain, and they couldn't have it outdoors, so he and his wife and a few other people came to our place in Washabrook. That's before I got married. And, oh my God, do you ever play? And everybody dancing. You couldn't stay off the floor. And you'd meet him after that, and he'd mention about, all the step dancers was down there. So.
Well, in the modern era, who comes to mind as a player who makes you want to dance?
Well,
It's okay to mention family members if you feel the need.
Kyle, he was only 13, I suppose. He used to travel with me when I was teaching. He played for, he'd play for the slow teaching, and he'd speed it up a little bit, and he was just perfect for that. And he is a good step dance teacher, good tempo. But what was I going to say? When I was teaching here, I have a stack that high of CDs, but you'd run out of tunes that fitted what you were doing. So when they start, I find if you can slow them down enough, if they're doing the first Strats Bay and the reels and all that thing, if the music was too fast, I can jig like anything. So I used to jig the music, jig it slow, and I'd do the step to it, and It's very, very helpful. I know there's some fiddlers that, the teachers take a fiddle with them and they, that can play, and they play the music slow. Jig and the tune work.
What is the influence of a piano player on the dancer? Could it ever be as much as the fiddler, or?
Well, they got to be in the same time.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
A speeding up piano player
would pull a fiddler along, maybe a little faster than they'd ordinarily play. But there are some fabulous, like Howie McDonald is great. He's got that. You've got that beat that makes you want to dance. Rodney's got that. Brenda Stubbard. I'm just naming a few. Ashley McIsaac is fabulous. Natalie. Ali Bennett has great timing. Like, there's so many out there that you hate to mention any because there's so many that are just as good. But we're blessed here.
Some of the tunes really get you wanting to dance too. They just beg for dancing.
What's an example of a tune that makes you?
Well, like you mentioned, Brenda Stubbard. Not that there's all kinds of people, but there's a certain numbers that they play on the coast, and when she gets into that, you just also makes me grab the fiddle and try and play.
Or take a little longer to do the dishes.
Yes, the dishes are.
So here you come to the Gaelic College to teach. How widely accepted was the dance here at the college in your experience?
Very well.
Very well. We had extremely large classes for a number of years, wouldn't you say?
Yes, there's too many. A lot of
Like
the time.
most times,
should have had
as I
more
say,
teachers.
one class we would have 14, 16 people in one step dancing class, and you may have like 5 classes a day, and you may have 7 in another, 8 in another. They're huge classes.
I remember there was one that was up to 20 some. They're all like teenage girls. They're all here for Highland dancing, I guess. A lot of that age, but they were taking step while they were here, and with flip-flops on.
Yeah. But the other instructors found, I know the pipers often mentioned, they found that, as you know, step dancing is different in the sense that I was with a board. It's in Halifax, Dance Nova Scotia, and the one thing that's there is that there's no form of competition. Our step dancing, there is no formal competition with it, And of course, the piping and drumming, and rightfully so, we kept our heritage alive this way, they kept their heritage alive that way. And both are worthy, But even the pipers and drummers felt that our class gave the kids a release. It was kind of it was a little release for pressure for them. And they'd come to their class and they were kind of a little happier, a little bouncier because they had that little break when they were dancing.
And not the pressure of having to compete.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they really seemed to enjoy that. And the instructors felt they felt that in their students.
You say no formal competition. What about informally at the dance? What are the chances that people feel
I think it's the same idea that, who mentioned yesterday? Was it Katrina? That if one fiddler might play, and another fiddler will play, and he's going to play very, very well because the other fiddlers are there. He or she is going to put their best foot forward. And I guess it's the same way with dancing. I guess, when someone gets up to dance, I don't think to myself, well, I'm going to get up and I'm going to do 12 Strathspey steps. They just did 8 different ones. It's not that kind of thing. You just get up and,
I
as
think
Jean said, certain tunes bring certain steps to mind. If you've got extra grace notes in it, you're going to maybe do an off-step beat that you wouldn't do ordinarily.
I think there was a lot more of that competition in the old people, back
I think
grandfather time and granduncles and all that age way back then, because they used to have competitions then, and that's where they got, I think, so many of these just wonderful steps. They just then they'd never showed them. They'd be hiding them, keeping them from themselves. That's where it changed in our generation, because here we were, we'd have a good step, you got to show it.
Show it, teach it to somebody else, yeah.
What was you mentioned talking with, say, the piping instructors. What was the level of camaraderie among the instructors from the different programs?
Oh my heavens, it was absolutely wonderful. On a scale of 1 to 10, it would be about a 95. They were extremely, extremely close, all of us. Because, I mean, we lived together. The students would be here, and over in MacLeod, we were secluded, basically, over in Highland. And we all had our little rooms, and we had our common area. Well, every night, from 5 o'clock on, we come over here for supper. And from 6 on till about 2 or 3 in the morning, sometimes 4, we would be up singing, laughing, telling jokes, just having a great time, wouldn't we?
Playing and stuff. I
Oh
wouldn't
yeah,
be up
playing.
before.
We
That'd
did
be
love
you.
Huh?
I wouldn't be up before. That was you.
Oh, yeah, well, yeah, that's right. I wasn't alone though, there was others with me.
I know. But
No,
I'm
this-
just not a
this-
morning person, so I would never be able to make it to class if I stayed up before class.
But the staff, the teachers were, like, I still hear on a regular basis. Many of you will remember Bob Worrell.
Oh, yeah.
How long since Bob's been here?
Oh, it has to be 15 years.
I
Yeah,
still hear
15
from him
years.
2 or 3 times a year. Hugh Cameron, all those different people that we talk with, they're still close
He was in
friends.
PEI, judging the competition. I was talking to Ryan. Ryan lives over there now.
Okay.
And, he said
Oh
he's-
no, it was great. And
It was
the
great times.
camaraderie all together at this college is, it's wonderful, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Like I can go in the kitchen with the girls, best food that you're ever going to get anywhere. And the big question at our classes, the kids would say, "What's for lunch today, Betty?" So it would be whatever it was. And same with the office. You can go in the office, you feel like you belong there. You can go to the craft shop, you're part of that. It's just everybody is extremely close here.
I understand that the camaraderie was so good it sometimes showed itself in practical jokes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yes, it did, very
What
much so.
What might be an example of one of those?
What's one of the ones we can talk about?
Anybody want to tell why there's just a bend in the flagpole over on the stage?
Tell them.
Somebody ran somebody's bloomers or something up to the top to be there in the morning. And they got after them, take it down. They couldn't get it down. They bent it. And I don't know if it's still bent to fix it. Anyway, no names.
And I understand sometimes wildlife could show up in your bathtub.
Yes, they knew that. They knew I was beyond terrified of bats, fanatically afraid of bats. So one morning I would get up, I'd going to get ready, and there were 6 bats in the bathtub, dead bats. They know I despise lobster. I'd go out to get in my car, and they'd have little lobster tails. They would. Remember Bob Worrell and that crew? Yeah. Little lobster tails all over the car, attached to it so you couldn't get in.
Little pieces leading to your bed, to your room, to the door.
What was it?
Remember that night? They had, when you came back from the dance, they had pieces of lobster claws all the way up the hall.
Well, they knew Thursday night. We had a real wonderful tradition here with the students. I don't know if the people in Glencoe liked it. Glencoe was arguably, back a number of years ago, was the place to be. A wonderful Thursday night experience. It was perfect.
The house that Buddy built.
The house that Buddy built. Buddy just was supposed to play there for a fundraiser one night. He played there for about 35 years. So you'd go every Thursday night. And we got in the habit here, I would take carloads with me. I don't know if people in Glencoe appreciated it because they'd be getting it all mixed up and the locals would be upset because here's all those people coming again and ruining our sets. But that was the night that they would do their pranks because they knew a lot of the teachers were gone. We come home one night and our bedrooms, we have these little, the entire bedroom was out in the foyer. The bed, your clothes, everything was lined up exactly as it would have been in your bedroom. Oh no, they had a great time. And Jean, don't let Jean fool you. Jean was in on many of these things.
Oh, I know.
She just pretends to be sedate. She really. Tell them about the time Bob Worrell's suitcase. You went on that?
No.
You'd have to know Bob. Bob was meticulous. Everything was perfect. If he came in here now, and if everything wasn't exactly the way it's supposed to be, he would fix it. So he packed everything. He's going back. So when he went to class, we went in, and we took every bit of his clothes out of the closet, out of his suitcase, put them all back in the cupboard, all his men's whatever. That was on the counter. All is on everything. We put everything back exactly as it was in his room. We locked the room and we left. He was extremely upset with us. Extremely. Tell them some of the things you used to do.
I never used to get involved in it. One time, and nobody blamed me because they didn't think I did it.
Who sold the...
Well, that's the one
Yeah,
time.
tell them who
us
did
about
the
that
sewing.
one
Come on,
time.
tell them.
You're getting.
Just tell them who did the sewing.
I did the sewing.
What did you sew together?
Things.
You're a tough nut to crack.
Well, that wouldn't have happened, Noddy, that he used to go around spraying, what is it, fart gas under the doors.
And she took some underwear, sewed them together. I didn't go that far. I wasn't that personal.
Well, that
Well,
sounds
he wasn't
uncomfortable.
there. That was the house mother let us in there.
Oh my.
Yeah, we didn't mention cleaning staff as well. The staff here, and the staff has been, from the time going back to Leonard Jones, going back to Norman, right up to Rodney, the staff here does 150%. Other staff, their job is 9 to 4, whatever. You can come here at any given time if there's anything on. That staff might be here till 1, 2, 3. Some of them were here last night. I was here last night. Many of these folks were here till 12, 2. The staff is phenomenal. And it has been that way for a number of years. Wouldn't you say?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're very, very hard workers.
I miss the meals. I haven't been here since a while. I started here when Sam started. I was doing all my own stuff,
Sam McPhee.
teaching everywhere. And there was father of one of the girls from North Sydney. Came down, asked about getting me on here. So I came on then. I don't know how many years I was here, it was quite a few. But it was a whole new experience for me. I didn't know if I was going to be able to do it and everything, but it all turned out well in the end.
How often do you run into students that you would have taught here in the summertime?
Everywhere. And the worst thing is that you can't remember. They remember you, but a lot of people from, an awful lot of people from the States. And first year I was here, there was little girls from France. Like people come over on vacation, they'd leave the kids and go about their business. And so it's people from all over the world. And they were all kept on, like I'd be trying to write the steps down, but it's not the same when you get home. So they were always wanting me, when are you going to make a video, and when are you going to make a video? So that mostly why I made it was because when they went back home, they could play it and they'd remember. But if they didn't have it, blank, they couldn't remember anything. So I made it. And the boys helped me with it. And then we changed it into a DVD, and it's. They say it's very helpful, and it seemed to be, like right now, it seems to be more popular than ever. We got more made, and they're looking for it all over the place. It just gets you started, I guess.
What does that tell you when a work you created years ago is growing in popularity now? What does that tell you about the dance, about people's interest in it?
Well, they're very interested in it now. They go to the square dances, and then at the end of the square dance, they always have a big session where they play, and one after the other, the young ones, there's so many fantastic young dancers. And they take turns getting up and dancing. And that's why I don't like to go to dances, because then they start calling me up. And I don't mind dancing, but I just can't keep up that pace. Well, if I worked out, maybe, but I don't get a chance to work out.
Among the young dancers, who catches your eyes these days?
Well, I had one student, I think it's the best one I ever had. But then when she got older, she got kind of shy. Remember Natasha Rowland?
Yes.
Funny about
Natasha
that
Rowland.
high, and she used to dance at the Highland Village. Steps, she'd make the steps, and they're all clapping, and she'd still laughing. So cute. She'd be a cousin of Brenda Stubber. And Brenda Stubber's daughter, she dances great. Oh, there's so many good dancers today.
Betty, who catches your eyes?
Well, I'd have to be remiss. He's not a younger fiddler, and a younger dancer, but I'd have to mention Harvey Beaton. Harvey Beaton has style,
Well, I know.
just perfect. Perfect style. He really does.
He's one of the ones I mentioned in my interview.
Yeah, no, he's a fabulous dancer.
I was thinking of people.
Yeah, no, but I
lately-
just couldn't leave him out because he is such a wonderful dancer, right?
The Warner sisters were just.
The Warner sisters are,
Fantastic.
Melanie still dances a fair amount, doesn't she?
Yes.
Margie and Don, Margie's a dancer. You've got Brandy McCarthy.
Minnie
There's
Beaton.
so many. Huh?
Oh yeah, the Pellerines are wonderful.
John and Bill Pellerine are just
Yes.
fabulous. There's just so many good
That
dancers.
was Margaret Dunn's, and there's a tape of the. Did you ever hear it? It's from the Highland Games. Carl was playing for Margaret Dunn in the concert. Oh my God! She had the taps on. You could hear her feet. She went on and on and on and on. It was just absolutely fantastic. There's so many of them.
Yeah. Now Lucy's a very neat dancer. Jean was a very neat dancer. Lucy dances.
Lucy
very
got such
similar to-
stamina. I don't know how she can do it night after night after night with the Christmas concerts. And she digs right in.
Well, I mean, do you think we used to teach here Monday to Friday? Rodney's laughing because he knows. We'd teach here, we'd have supper, we'd get in a car, pile in whatever car we could happen to get. We'd go to Brook Village on Monday night. We'd go to, where was Tuesday? The barn, Scottsville. We went to the barn on Wednesday. We went to Glencoe on Thursday. Taught every day here, 5 hours. Then went there and danced 6 sets a night. Hopped in the car, went to bed, got up the next morning and taught for another 5 hours.
Wow.
And then you didn't lose any weight because you have such good food in the kitchen. If you didn't have the food, you could have lost a lot of weight up here.
Used to go for a walk in the evening.
We used to go for a walk in the evenings. Yes, we did. Before we went out.
I was teaching with Rodney one year. I don't know how come we were in the same room unless we pulled back the screen.
He talked about that, you and I, and who was the other teacher? Bonnie Jean.
The three of us.
Learned a step from you and practiced it all summer before I could get it. And I still can't do the last one when you go around the
I
front.
still remember tape we played that time. We had tape up my opportunity playing. I remember the tune.
I had that's what I taught the groups of class in the basement, and it was just perfect for
That's another person too. That's fabulous for dancing too. Is Kinnan. Mm-hmm. Can't beat Kinnan for a square set.
he never
It's
changed. It's like
fabulous.
you set the. I find the good square dance players they get at the tempo and then keep it. And I've got fooled so many times dancing in a concert. You know, I'll hear somebody playing and I feel, oh, I'm going to ask her now because she just plays right, her or him. And then when you get on, they go into, I don't know what it is, but they go faster and faster and faster. And
I think they just caught up in your feet, you know, and if they just, you'd know that from.
I like that. I like to speed it up, but I mean, you got to keep that beat, that 1, 2, 3, 4.
You mentioned earlier, in referring to a video, hearing the sound of the taps.
Mm-hmm.
What's your position on taps?
I think we're at
Dancing.
different spots there.
Well, the really heavy ones are a bit. Well, I do used to dance with them all right, but they're a problem because it's so hard for people to get used to them. If you're dancing with them all your life, I used to tell the kids, if you're going to dance with taps, take them with you the first day, like the little flat taps. Mm-hmm. But if you learn with them, you can throw them away, and then you can hear every tap. You can dance on your bare feet, and you can hear, because your toes would have to be there, and your heels have to be there.
Mm-hmm. And
I don't think it's a big problem, as long as it doesn't get too loud.
Betty?
I used them for teaching because I was on the other end of the spectrum. I wouldn't allow kids to wear taps because you have one person who's off beat, it's all gone. Someone that's trying to concentrate on the beat, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and someone's off that third beat, it puts all the kids out.
No, I don't mean to wear them to class. I mean like private students. 'Cause
Oh, private.
I had a lot. Of
But no, I don't. Even watching people dance. Years ago, we all wore taps, and one of the main reasons, especially Broad Cove and places like that, if you were back 25 rows, what do you see? At least if you could hear it, you'd have some idea of what was going on, right? But more and more, I find more people aren't wearing taps anymore, and if they are, it's the small taps, right? Because it's supposed to be more traditional as well. But it's just a personal preference, really.
But they'd always put a little
Yeah,
clicker on the front.
Yeah.
Well, it's just well to say they're dancing with taps. They put the little clickers on the front and on the heel. I remember Johnny Red Rory, Johnny Washerwood, and all those people.
He was a lovely dancer. A lot of it is just personal.
Like I said,
We could all get up to dance. We could do the same exact step. It would be 3 entirely different. You wouldn't even realize the 3 of us did the exact same thing because the styles would be so different. Wouldn't you say? Wouldn't you say that?
as long as the beat was there.
That's what I mean. But everyone interprets
Some
it.
people do it and leave things out and stuff like that. But I remember there was a little girl who came to my class, but the only one that I couldn't teach, because almost everybody, you could teach them something, they'd go home happy. But this little one came, and she was learning by watching Natalie on TV. So she was bored with the class, because she knew all that. And then I'd say, well, show me what you know. And then, so she'd be doing she had all the actions. But the feet weren't doing anything, like she's going ahead and back and kicking her feet, turning around, putting her foot around. But nothing was, like the steps weren't there. Well, I said, the first thing you gotta learn is the step in that one. But, I think she was staying out at Sam's. And they were telling me, she wouldn't go back. She didn't like it and everything, but I couldn't teach her because she wouldn't stop doing what she was doing. That's about the only time. I hope she's not listening to me.
Who's easier to teach, men or women, when it comes to dancing? Any difference?
Not much difference if the talent is in them.
Mm-hmm. What's been your experience, Betty?
Women. Mm-hmm. Easier to teach women because men seem to be, I use the term more macho.
Waltzing the women?
No, they just don't seem to be able. The women can laugh at themselves more.
Yeah.
The men are a little more reserved, so it's not as easy to. They won't kind of relax to the point and laugh about it as much as the females would. That's what I found anyway.
Once in my life, I had a whole class of boys. It was actually must have been a miracle because you can't get boys like a lot when they're young anyway. But I had a whole room full of boys, and it was on Thursday night or and it was just great. Then the priest in our parish had started a choir, and he had boys' choir on Thursday night, and I lost them all.
Oh.
He had more authority.
One last thing. We're celebrating the 75th anniversary of the Gaelic College this week. What do you feel has been the impact of the Gaelic College on our lives in Cape Breton, just from your time here?
A lot of people learned here anyway, that's for sure. And I haven't been here since the new college, but I'm sure they're doing a lot of the same things. But well, they liked coming here, and there was a lot of good music that get together playing, and the tunes came out of it. And my own, not because of mine were here, but years ago, before I ever came here, the older boys all taught here, and Ryan taught here then, the younger ones, and we gave names of people that would be good to teach that came here after they left, and it's a lot of good students.
What do you think, Betty? What's been the impact?
I think the impact has been immense from the college. I mean, you look at, okay, I'm involved in fiddling and step dancing, but you have to realize the Gaelic is in fiddling. The Gaelic is in step dancing. He only passed away about 3 months ago. Joe Peter McLean was a fabulous Gaelic speaker. He was one of the few people, the fiddlers would be playing a tune, he could sing the words with the tune. So a lot of these, the Donald Angus, going back to Donald Angus once again, you could hear the Gaelic in their music, you know? And that comes through in dancing, that came through in everything. So everything was intertwined, and everything supported each other, everything. The instructors, as I said, they came from all over the world. And they would still come back here today because they have a love of the college, the same as Jean and I would. We had the love of the college. That's why it's 75th anniversary. This is the spot you're going to be volunteering and doing things, you know, because it is really like a home away from home. All we had to do, we used to say to people, all you have to do up there, you just go to your room, wash yourself, dress yourself, and teach classes. Everything else was done for you. The cleaning, the food.
We had a lot of stuff in the evening, though. We used to have put Kayleys on.
Oh, we did. We did a lot of work in the evenings here at one time. We had Monday night, we had student session. Tuesday night, we met with the students once again. Wednesday night, we had an instructor's Kaylee. Thursday night, some people went to Rowley, some people went to Glencoe. And then on Wednesday night, we always had a big party. It was party central here.
That's another thing that started after I was here. I got a gig now at Rowley's. Been playing there since 12 years, every week on Thursday night. It just went over wonderful.
But so many of the students that we had
They all
still
came
come
from
back to the Gaelic College, don't they? Ones that we
yeah.
taught years ago,
Yeah.
they are still here.
And
Like the week before the festival, they've been here since 15, 20 years, most of those students that are coming.
Sandy McIntyre used to bring a lot of students down from
Yeah.
Ontario, and they'd come every year, and it's like a big reunion. And he was to.
No, it was a great spot. I think we really have to get it out there more to people that it's here. It's a treasure, but it's got to be a treasure that's got to be pushed out more to the local people as well as people abroad, you know. So that's...
Well, thank you so much for reminding us of the importance of this place and for sharing part of your history and your connection here and your love of dance. And thank you for your many years of service and teaching here at the college as well. Betty Matheson, Jean McNeil.